Hello, 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 and welcome to the Unspoken Heart Discussion Hour. We got a special treat for you. But before we actually bring them in, I'm going to actually tell you a little announcements. As y'all know, we got the poetry contest going on. The deadline is March 16th. That is March 16th, deadline to get all videos in over to my DM for the poetry contest. As you see, we have the Powerful Poet of the Year trophy right here. And we also have the children's category to where if you're a child, you can submit a video, spit your poetry, and you'll be submitted in. The announcing of the winners will be April 1st during the discussion hour. Make sure when you do your videos, you mention the title of your piece. Separately from the video, send me your phone number because we'll be calling you live if you are the winner for the Powerful Poet of the Year. Okay, now I'm finna get ready to bring in my cast members. So here we go. All the way from Austin, Texas, we have our assistant co-host, Denise. From Cincinnati, my favorite is Mr. B.
That's right.
Hey, it's been a long 2 weeks. I'm telling you. This is yes. And this is so exciting. We decided at the last minute, me and other assistant co-host was up late, and we decided to just spontaneously throw something in from the heart of the Unspoken Heart Discussion Hour. So what we decided is that we wanted to do something a little bit different. And we look at different avenues of people that inspire, bring awareness, encourage, and help throughout, because that's what we all about, doing everything from the heart. So we decided that we wanted to choose somebody that was an inspiration to all, not just the Unspoken Heart, discussion hour, but to everyone. And this person that we chose, they're not only just a poet, but they have helped out throughout the community. They have also been an artist. They have been an actor. They do performances. They go out in the community, and they also bring in the community and bring in awareness. Through the trials and tribulations of their crosses, they have become a survivor as well. And through their voice, they still perform and still let their voice ring out in order to be heard. And the one thing that we spoke on is how the poets are not being acknowledged and not being exposed the way they should be, because they also are a sweet melody. Now, Mr. B, tell me in your words before we actually bring this up, what do poetry mean to you?
Wow. Thanks for coming back too. You had me out there. Look, I was sweating. So poetry to me means, it simply put for me, it's the spoken words of the sweet melody of your heart. What's inside your heart, what's inside your being. It's an expression of self. It's that voice within you that normally isn't seen, but heard in the expression of a poem.
Love it, love it. And Miss Denise.
Well, I am a poet.
And we know it.
Poetry to me is that gives you that outlet of saying something that you normally wouldn't say to anyone per se, but you can put it out in a poetic words, a rhyming. I'm a rhymer, so a rhyming word, and express yourself that way, your inner thoughts and your inner self. You can let everybody know how you truly feel through your words, through poetry, art.
Yes. You know, since a child, I've always loved poetry. And, you know, to me, I didn't see everything as a poet. I just seen it as a place to escape, a place to express yourself. You know, just like with music, you know, some of the music is, you know, through the crosses that people have been through. That's why it sounds so soulful. And that's where we come from. We come from a different places, where it's slam poetry, where it's from experiences, or whether it's just something of melody that you just love to rhyme. But as an inspiration to the Unspoken Heart Discussion Hour, we have chose someone because we have been watching them for years and their work, but it's not just this one person. It's been many people that we had looked at, and we have seen they have done great works and made a difference within the community around the whole world. So God have granted many gifts in people's lives in order to be heard. So without further ado, I'm going to present to you the Unspoken Heart Discussion Hour inspirational poet.
I am her, the her that is the mother, the her that saves all mankind when the trials and tribulations of life occur. I am her, bringing the treasures of Africa from the motherland, the her that holds up the man when the tragedies of life buckles his stand. I am her, carrying my babies in my arms, shielding them from fire with the ringing of the alarm. I am her that walked with no fear during the Katrina storm, to save my babies from drowning in the midst of the storm. I am her that walked in the fields of white cotton, the her that sang hymnals for the souls of the forgotten. I am her that chose to escape the Holocaust, fleeing to the forest of eastern Poland, fighting for the memory of the other Jewish women lost. I am her that gave birth at the age of 16, the her that they said wouldn't amount to anything.
When you're looking at me, it's a reflection of her. How can you judge when you don't know her? No one could take the place of her. I am her. I am her.
The her that walked the stage holding me, the her that moved on to earn a Texas Southern degree, the her that didn't eat so that my brother and I could, the her that was raped and left in a trash bag of a nearby neighborhood, my mother, who chose to pray away pain to recover, my beautiful black hero that embraces me when I feel hurt and lonely. I am her that lives in a house of no defeat, the her that isn't afraid to speak, the her that will encourage when she doesn't have courage, to keep on fighting with her feminine power, the her that prays silently in the last hour. I am her.
When you're looking at me, it's a reflection of her. How can you judge when you don't know her? And no one could take the place of her. No one. I am her. No one.
I am her.
I am
The cancer survivor. The her that they said would die in the night. The her that walked on when the doctors doubted she might. I am her.
I do want to say that we do not own the rights to the song or the music played in that video or any videos on here. We know Facebook will try to mute us or try to block us. If you have that problem, please report over to my YouTube channel, Spicy Gray, the Unspoken Heart Discussion Hour. So as y'all see, we have awarded Miss Nikita McClure as our Inspirational Poet of the Year. Y'all have to excuse me. I mean, I'm trying not to be a crybaby, as some know that, you know, I'm very emotional. You know, I when I get into people, I put my heart into a lot of things that they do, especially when they've been through crosses and the same experiences that I have. Nikita, I've watched her as I watched other people, and people don't know I'm watching them. You know, she have went through, and God has blessed her through many sicknesses, and she stood her ground to help others out in the community, to still make her voice sound loud so that people could feel the melody within her voice and in her piece. And I want to say congratulations from the Unspoken Heart Discussion Hour, being our Inspirational Poet of the Year. We would have called her, but she's actually performing tonight live. So she, I know she probably watching it on phone or whatever, but we will be giving her a call later to let her know. And if y'all ever interested in seeing this phenomenal woman perform live, she will be March 24th performing at the Red Lights and Red and Roses event for the Poetic Thirst. So make sure y'all go ahead and show her some love and congratulate her. And I promised myself I wasn't going to cry. Because it's like when you hear people's story and you actually know them personally and walk with them, because there's many poets that, you know, I went to go support and make sure that, you know, they could feel the love from us and make sure that they know that they are valuable in what they do, because it is a gift, you know, when you possess something like this. So, you know, thank y'all so much. And thank Dwight, you know, he's not on tonight, for helping us to choose her as the Inspirational Poet of the Year. Now, on with the show. We have a beautiful guest that we're going to be bringing in, as y'all be seeing it with the post. She has a story to tell in bringing us on her path for the first time. She has stood her ground to break all chains. And what we're going to do, we're going to bring her on in. So everybody welcome her. From Columbus, Ohio, graduated from Marion Franklin High School, studied communication at the Ohio State University, backup singer for Johnny Cash, worked with Shirley Murdoch, Isley Brothers, Roy Ayers, and Freddie Jackson. She is the intake director at Rehab's Hope of Ohio, singer, actress, and upcoming published author. I welcome to y'all Miss Tabathia Porter. And I knew I was going to do that. How you say it? Tabathia?
It's Tabathia.
Tabathia. Yes, that is
beautiful.
Beautiful, though. Thank you so much for joining us and wanting to bring your story here and share with us. As you know, we do have many stories that we have shared here live all over the world on mental health, also on abuse. So we feel very honored in having you here. Thank you for choosing us as in sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
So, before we actually get into everything, I want to let everybody know, inform everybody out there who you are and what you have done in life.
Well, I'm a professional singer. I grew up in the church singing, and that's where my first music experience came. My aunt was the director of the choir, and so she instructed me. And before I knew it, I was singing lead in the church and the choir. And from that point on, after I realized I had a voice, and I guess my mom told me that I had a voice, I think probably before I could actually speak fluently. And I started touring with my grandma, and she was a preacher, and I went from church to church singing with her, and it just kind of began that way. And I found doors opened to me as I got older and opportunities, and I tried to walk through them, even in the midst of the trauma that I was going through. So.
Now, before my other cast members question you, I wanted to know, when was it precisely that you realized, or your mother realized, that you possess this beautiful gift in singing?
I think it was about 6 years old when I realized that I had a voice, and my grandmother gave me some opportunities. I did recitation as a child, and so I did different speeches, James Weldon Johnson and different authors as I was young, and recitation became a way of life for me. And before I knew it, I was in theater and plays and those kind of things. And it was one of those things that caught my interest. And I think by the time I was 12, I had written my first play, and I started doing local productions in the city. And so I teach dance. And so I incorporated dance into that. And so it ended up being like theatrical presentations with dance and music involved in them. And it just became a lifestyle. It was a catharsis for me. It was an outlet for me for some of the things that I was going through at that time. And music gave me an opportunity to not only stir up my gifts, but channel the negative energy that I was feeling from the things I was going on. It just gave me an outlet. So it was very helpful to me.
Beautiful. Now, before they ask their questions, because I know, there's people in our life that inspire us. Like Maya Angelou was my inspiration when it came down to poetry. Who was your inspiration when it came down to music?
That's a hard question, because I've sang every genre of music, and so I always liked Patti LaBelle. Was always my favorite singer. Her and Barbra Streisand were probably the most influential singers in my lifetime. But I listened to everything and I enjoyed everything. So it was kind of a hodgepodge for me. I like country. I like classical music. I like jazz. I like R&B. But my basis was gospel. So I probably sing gospel better than anything else that I do.
Yes, yes, yes. Now, as we heard, she was the backup singer for Johnny Cash and many other there. What was that experience like for you to actually be the backup singer for Johnny Cash? And actually, I love Shirley Murdoch. I mean, I was just like blown away when I seen that.
Well, at that point in time, I had left I left college a year before graduation. I had an opportunity to do some things musically. I think at that point in time, music was it was a place for me to vent, give me an artistic freedom. But I was running from some other things in my life at that time, and that kind of gave me an open door to escape from where I was and move into another place. And that place, it gave me a place of peace and a place of independence. And it was something that I felt good about that I was doing. And so I was all in.
Yes. Now we'll go over to Mr. B and see what kind of questions you have, because when we come back from our commercial break, we'll be able to hear your story and your path. But right now, we're just getting to know you and see all the skills and everything you possess. So, Mr. B, what questions do you have for her?
Well, first of all, how you doing tonight, Tab? I call her Tab. And she is an extraordinary singer. But the question that I would have, and it's interesting, Spicy even touched on it immediately. This thing with Johnny Cash, that experience. Where were you first influenced with that particular genre of music? I know you grew up in the church. You had that church influence, so quite naturally, I can see Shirley Murdoch. Mm-hmm. But it kind of sideswiped me with Johnny Cash, and I'm like, well, wow, where did that come from?
Well, I was singing, and I was singing with the 50s group, and they were doing doo-wop music, and we opened up for a big concert where they motivate people. Amway sponsored us, and they asked me, well, do you do anything besides the 60s music? And I said, sure. And they gave me a card, and they said, well, we'll call you. Well, how many times do people tell you they're going to call you for an opportunity like that and actually do it? But they did. And so I got that call, and before I knew it, I was on a plane. Me and my cousin sang a lot together. We ended up in Florida, and it started there. And so they saw us singing, and it happened just that quick. And so I ended up leaving the group that I was in and started working with the Elvis impersonator. And this Elvis Presley impersonator, we traveled all over the country, and he knew how to do every kind of move that Elvis did. And so we won competitions all over the country because he was the best Elvis Presley impersonator. They saw us. The Johnny Cash people saw that act. And the rest was history. They snatched us up, and we started doing work with them, something like that.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Of course. Well, what was your... everyone has their favorite thing, other than, because we know the gospel, of course, is always my favorite too. But what was your favorite time working with Johnny Cash?
Well, when we worked with Johnny, unfortunately, we were with him in his drunken, disorderly days. And so there were times that we had to go in the restroom and kind of scoop him up and look underneath and see those black boots with the Johnny Walker red bottle on the floor, and scoop him up and, take him to the airport and get in the plane and make it to our next destination. But for whatever reason, he would hit the stage, and I don't know, his faculties would come back to him, and he would always put on a great show. I really didn't have any complaints. I loved working with him during the time that we did. Mm-hmm. He was a great manager. He was a professional on stage. I never saw him be unprofessional on stage. He might be a little tipsy at times, but outside of that, he held up to the contract to the letter. Every city we went to, it was perfection. And he was at the top of his game in terms of his art and his craft. He was one of the most respected people that I know of in the industry, that treats the employees right, make sure you're paid on time, and make sure all the everything was in place, all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted. So it was a great time in my life. I enjoyed that part, and it was a great distraction from the other things that I was going through in my life at that time.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I heard that about him too. I've heard you're like the second person. Well, not the second person, but a few artists have said that when they worked with him, he was awesome like that. They didn't have not much bad to say about him other than the drinking issue. He was an awesome person, period.
He was.
Can I ask a question on the heels of that? Because I was sitting here thinking as you were talking about the drunkenness and the disorderly, and I know that you had some dark times before then. Did that influence you in any way? Did it promote you to want to use? Did you use yourself? What was that like? Because it's a fast track out there.
No,
It was a fast track, and I had already been on the dark side prior to me going on the road. I had already been exposed to drugs, and that was a place that at that point in time in my life that I chose to hide behind because I really couldn't handle the hurt that had happened to me. I was sexually abused at the age of 11 years old. And back then, there really wasn't an outlet. There wasn't a catharsis. There wasn't social media, those kind of things in place to help you through that kind of trauma. And so my abuser threatened to kill my mother. Now, maybe he wouldn't have done that, but at 11 years old, I believed it. And so I envisioned him. He was my Satan on earth. He was the person I was afraid of. And so in my life, the only thing I wanted to do was not be in his presence. And so when I got an opportunity to go to college, I dashed. I was gone. That was a back door for me. Even though I wanted to go to college, I wanted to just get away from what felt so painful to me. And because I wasn't able to speak about it and I had to keep it inside, that internal damage was, it was life-changing for me because I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't get it out. And at 11 years old, trying to process that kind of pain and trying to figure out what to do it was just unbeknownst to me. And I wasn't able to do that successfully, but I some kind of way I managed to do it without people seeing how damaged and hurt I was. I'm in theater. I'm an actress. I knew how to put on the face. And so I didn't look hurt. I didn't look disgruntled. I didn't look like a drug addict. I didn't look like those things, that stereotypical look that you say a person's supposed to look and be a certain way. I wasn't those things. And so I slid up under the radar for a very long time until I got to the point where, I knew I needed some help and I knew I needed to do something, and I was making money and, and you can't hide it for so long. But when you have money, it looks like you can hide what's going on because you don't look destitute. You don't look poor. Your nails are done. You're still wearing diamonds, and so you can fool some of the people some of the time, but as the rule goes, you can't fool everybody else.
Who didn't fool? Who wasn't fooled?
My mama wasn't fooled at all.
Of course.
I couldn't fool her. There was just no fooling her. She made me, and she was a no-nonsense mother, and once I had left to go to college and we were trying to figure out what the heck was wrong with my daughter, what's wrong with her. I finally told. At the age of 16, I told my mother what had happened to me. And of course, my mother was livid. That was the other reason why I didn't tell, because I knew that she was going to get that gun.
Okay.
She was going to do something to the person that assaulted her daughter. And so, that was the other reason why I kept it a secret. Because I knew that my mother, I knew that was going to happen. And sure enough, I remember having a dream at the age of I think I was about 9.
Okay. I'm not trying to be rude. We're going to slow it down just a little bit because a lot of the stuff, questions we want to ask on after the commercial break. Right now, I do want to ask this question, get it in before we take this commercial break, is that I know a lot of people took to Mr. Freddie Jackson. What was it like to be in the presence and to be in the atmosphere and knowing Mr. Jackson himself and him being known as the one that made love music?
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
So I don't know if you're gonna like this or not. Freddie Jackson was one of my favorites back in the day. He remind me so much of Luther Vandross, and his way. I just love to hear him sing, and I was able to work on stage with him, and I was so excited. I was young, and I remember going behind stage and kind of tapping on his dressing room and walking in the room, and what I saw. I was blown away, and I don't even know if I should say it, but it was drugs, and he was not in a good space, and my world was shattered because he was one of my heroes back then. So that kind of did something to me, and that rained on my parade a little bit.
Okay.
Oh my!
That answered.
Oh my!
That's that.
So what we're gonna do? We're gonna take a short commercial break. And before we get started, we are going to say we do not own the rights to this music. And we're going to come back with the story behind Miss Porter.
But you rescued me from reaching from the bottom. You brought me down from being too far gone. You're smooth, Tennessee whiskey. You're sweet strawberry wine. You're as strong as a glass of brandy, and I feel strong for your love all the time. I used to look for love in all the places. Found the bottom of the bottle, always when you ride. When you rescue me, your love has been wasted. 'Cause there's nothing but your love to get me high.
Yeah, get it, girl.
Tennessee whiskey. You're sweet, strawberry wine. You're strong. It's a glass of brandy, and I'll stay strong. All the time. And I'll stay strong on your love all the time.
Oh God, I had to put that in there. That's my favorite song.
Yes, it is.
Yes, when she sung that, I was sitting there like, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, beautifully, but beautifully done. Tell us a little bit about that performance right there.
I was at a local restaurant / pub, and that's kind of one of the places that was my home spot. I'm booked there every month, and so a lot of my friends, classmates, come to hear me perform when I come to this particular place because it's near the neighborhood where I grew up, and so I can always expect to see extra well wishers and friends and classmates that I went to school with come there, and so that place kind of holds dear to my heart.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, getting into your story, could you tell us where did this begin? And not so much of what it was like, but as a small child, because as with any little girl, they look to have this life with playing with dolls and being loved and enjoying just being a child. Could you share with us what was it like in experience when you was home and going through this?
Well, for the most part, I tried to be as normal as I could, and by my mother not knowing it, and I was an artsy kind of kid. So coming up, I was in, everything that came through town. I was in all the talent shows, all the musical events. I was runner-up for Miss Black Teenage America. So my mom, she kept me busy all the time, and those things kind of helped keep me grounded as much as I could be at that point in time in my life. But the fact that I wasn't able to tell my mother was catastrophic for me because she was my best friend. I'm an only child. And so, she was my go-to. And so certainly when I wasn't able to vent or let that information out, what I was going through, I tried to hide it as much as I could. And I mean, she didn't know for almost 5 years. I tried to look like I wasn't damaged, and I'm not even sure what that looks like. But I was just trying to make sure that I didn't let any sight of anything, that I was letting the cat out of the bag because I was afraid that he would harm her. So she was really at the frontal of everything that was going on me. I just wanted to save her at all costs, and before I was able to tell her, of course, I came out on the losing end of that part.
Okay, so what did he say or what did he do to make you in fear and placed in a position to protect your mother from him?
Well, when somebody tells you that if you tell that I touched you or I was inappropriate with you, I'll kill your mother. I'll watch her take your last breath. Now, the impact that has on me now, I may think twice, but at 11, I didn't. It was real to me. It looked real. And I took it as if it was a very serious thing. Every day of my life that I went through those 5 years, I was thinking, I'm saving my mother. I'm saving my mother. And so that's what I kept in the back of my, but I was damaged. I was in a very dark place. And because I was channeled into music and theater, I really believe that was my saving grace. That was the one thing that God gave me to keep me during that time, because he knew that I was going to go through that. And he knew that I was going to need something outside of my own strength. And plenty of days I laid on the altar and cried out to God, screaming, yelling, please take this away from me. Get this out of my life. And it was horrendous. But back then, even as a child, I had a strong faith in God. And I believed at some point in time that he was going to rescue me, that I was going to be delivered. But it took so much longer than I thought. And I just thought I wasn't going to be able to make it. We did it. I came through it. And that's, what my message is today, as I talk to parents and young mothers to look at the signs of what sexual abuse, because it has a behavior and a personality of its own. And if you know what signs to look for, you can pick some things up.
Now, as such a young child, because when this began, how old were you?
I was 11.
Wow. So at 11 years old, I mean, I know through the trauma that I've been through, my place was writing. I've always written stuff down. It was hard for me, but even though I had a brother, sister, I had my grandmother, you was the only child. So how was that to be able to keep it in and then try to put on a mask as if nothing happened?
Well, it wasn't easy. I mean, I went to school, tried to be normal, fit in with the kids. And I probably displayed normal behavior because I was in a regular, normal environment at school with my friends. I felt safe. It probably didn't become catastrophic to me until I came home in the evening, because my mother worked second shift. So when I was coming in from school, my mother was leaving to go to work. And so she would be at work until 11 o'clock at night. So from 3 to 11, I was paralyzed. I was disgruntled, curled up in a ball to see if my room door was going to knock, open, and if he was going to come in. And so those days of my life were the absolutely worst days that I ever had on the planet, because they were entrenched with fear, anguish, anxiety, depression, just the anticipation, was it going to happen today? And it was horrendous.
Wow. Now, even though we haven't mentioned it, this person that stole your virginity at 11 years old, was this someone that you knew very well, or was it somebody in the family?
This was a family member. And that family member lived in our household, which made it more catastrophic for me because I didn't have the ability to save myself at that young age, because I thought I was saving my mother. And so, I became the, I guess, sacrificial lamb, I guess you could call it.
Oh, wow. Now, being that you had the strong, even at 11 years old, you had a strong love for God, you had strong belief with him, but you also took threats lightly. Being so young, I know that had to be such a struggle for you to have to deal with. Was there times to where during those hours that you knew your mother was going to be away and you was going to be left home with this person, that you thought, well, maybe I could just hide somewhere and maybe he wouldn't find me?
I did different things from time to time. There were times that I would just jump out of the window and just walk over friends, walk in the neighborhood. Our local church, the church that I attended, was in my neighborhood. There was a point in time that I actually went to the church, broke in the church, and stayed there for 2 days. And when I finally came home, they thought, oh, she's out being promiscuous. She done found a boy, all of that. It was none of the above. I broke into the church and I laid there for 2 days. I was just on the altar. I was just depleted, and in a place of total submission, like, God, you got to hear me. I'm dying here, and I need you to do something. Take this away from me. And it says that God will not give you more than you can stand. And I believe those words were true, but I was on the brink of feeling totally insane. And one day I woke up and I knew I couldn't hold it anymore. And my mom was outside in the driveway, And I walked up to her and I said, he touched me the wrong way. And it kind of got her attention, and she did a double take, like, what did you say? I said, he touched me the wrong way. It's been inappropriate with me. And the thing that I had feared the most happened. She went and got the gun. And so, that added a whole another side of peril and drama, wondering what was going to happen. But thank God the bullets lodged in the chamber and the gun didn't go off. And
so how old were you when you had finally revealed this to your mother? And after this, I'm going to let our assistant co-host question, and I know Mr. B has a question as well. But how old were you when you finally revealed to your mother, he touched me?
I was 16 when I finally told.
And what was it in you that you decided, okay, I can't hold this in anymore. I have to let her know?
I was a senior in high school. I was ready to graduate. I was about to go to Ohio State. And I was trying to feel good about the positive things that were going on in my life in terms of me graduating. I was 16 years old, a freshman, getting ready to be a freshman at Ohio State. And I got to a place where I could not hold it back anymore. Just the look that I saw on his face, having the control, having the power over me, his words, his everything. I was petrified of him, and I just didn't want to live in fear another day. And I don't know what happened that morning that I got up and made up my mind, but I was just tired. I didn't want to be touched anymore. And I just said, hey, whatever you're going to do, I guess today's the day. Do it.
That's real deep because it hits home for me. We almost walked the same path. Almost, it seemed like. It's called grooming. Then he groomed you, and he got away with it for a long time.
Yes.
I was unfortunate to see things happen at the age of 4. I remember that far back. But with that being said, you told your mom and it was all said and done. Did you feel any at peace at that moment for you and your mom or anything?
Well, I felt peace. Well, the fact that she had a gun in her hand made her the person in power. Mm-hmm. And he ran, jumped out of a window. And if that wasn't enough, once she realized that the gun had not went off, she picked up knives out of the.
Oh my goodness!
Put them on the stove and let them burn until they were red hot. And he made an exit, and he never came back. She divorced him, and we started trying to pick up the pieces of our lives together, which was, that was catastrophic within itself. It changed the whole dynamics of our household, the finances, everything. He took the car, he wiped out the bank accounts, took both cars. We came home from school, house was empty, he had taken all the furniture.
Oh, wow.
She came in, we lifted, we're sitting on the floor, crying, holding each other, trying to figure out, like, our whole life has been shattered and just dismounted from under us. What are we going to do? And we decided that we would do whatever we needed to do to heal, to work on trying to get our life together, to get our lives back together and make some order of it. And it took some time. It didn't happen right away. There was friction between me and her. I mean, it wasn't an easy task. It took years. And I went away to college. That was my back door. That was my out. And she became a therapeutic foster parent when there was an empty nest when I was gone. And so that's a whole nother story.
Did he ever go to jail?
He died. He died of cancer, and he died a horrible death. He was murdered.
Oh, wow.
And those are some of the components that are in my book. Talked about the tragedy of how he died and how you live your life in such a way. And the Bible says you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And he died in the most horrific way that you would not even believe that a person would die.
Wow. First of all, I like to say to all the women that, Spicy, Tanisha, all of you all three of you women are some strong women. I'm sitting here and actually, to be honest, I'm trying to compose myself and stop myself from actually emoting. For me, hearing your story is painful. It also brings back my own memories because oftentimes we want to equate this with just women and not men. And you said some things that were similar to what I had gone through with not telling my mother. I was a black child in the late 50s, early 60s, couldn't tell my mother. You know what I'm saying? And that held me hostage for so many years. I'm just so thankful that, at an earlier age, you had a chance to find an out. But what happened to me is I'm wondering if the same thing took place for you. For me, it was I had to create this alter ego, if you will. I had to find this other me to latch on to try to carry me through the dark times. So it wasn't a repetitive situation such as yourself. But the fact is that I was so ripped apart inside, and I imagine I know you were. I'm hearing it, I'm feeling it. That I had to find this alter ego to try to something to protect me. I also heard in your story how phenomenal you are to actually graduate and go to college at the age of 16. The math's not hard. That tells me you had to be the type of student that excelled and you graduated from high school early and went into college early at an early age. That's phenomenal in itself. So I guess my question is, how much of that pain just drives you, and even to the day, is that still a driving force in your life? Because for me, being an ex-athlete, I was competitive. Nobody was never ever going to take advantage of me again. I couldn't let nobody win at no cost. So even in movies, when I'm doing movies, I kind of draw on that. Does that happen with you? And if so, just explain how.
Absolutely. I'm sure I can't imagine what my life would have been like if I didn't have the arts to turn to. The stage, the microphone was my hiding place. It was the place where I could be something else. I could sing a song and create another atmosphere. It was, when I tell you, it was a safe haven place for me to pick up the mic and be able to sing. Same thing with theater and acting. I wrote plays, plays on top of plays. And I kept myself busy. When I was in full blown addiction, I was still doing theater and music full time, hitting it hard, pounding it, because it was a thing that kept me from probably killing myself or killing somebody else or doing something catastrophic that I, would be sorry for later. That kept me grounded. And so part of what I do today is encourage young people to stir up whatever the gifting is in you. Because for my case, my giftings is what saved my life. It is truly the thing that God gave me. It was my lifeline. It was a rope, that SOS when I was in trouble and I was drowning for the third time. the arts kept me afloat. And so I'm an advocate believer in allowing young people to find out what they're good in, what makes them feel good, what's a driving force, what are you good at? If it's music, if it's even the rappers, young rappers that I've worked with, hey, you have to command the English language. You're not just out here rapping. Perfect your craft, work at it, be the best at it. And so that was my saving grace, period.
I love it. I love it. That's beautiful. Now, I know some of us, we question, because even ones that's out there looking on, could ask, what kind of tools would you suggest or that you apply to your life in order to deal or even heal from this trauma?
Well, I would say for me, I'm just so happy that I was rooted and grounded in knowing who God was in my life. That was the power that I didn't have, that I could lean on Him and He would get me through those rough times. I thought of God often, when I was fighting, literally fighting in the bed, trying to maintain whatever little bit of integrity that I had when this was happening to me. I fought so much until I got tied up. You're fighting too much, and I got tied down to the bed. There was a fighting force in me that just wouldn't let me go. And I'm that way to this day. There's a fight in me that wants to just fight for the right thing, fight for the underdog. I guess that's just how He constructed me.
Now, if there was anything, if you hadn't had the chance and opportunity to before he passed, if there was anything that you could have said to him, or is there anything that you wish you could have said to him and confronted him about how you feel and what he done to you in your path?
Well, I think that one thing that kind of tipped the scale for me is because we had never had the conversation that I wanted to have with him about how he had train wrecked my life. And so here he is on his deathbed, 4th-stage cancer, and I came to visit him. I said, hey, we need to have this conversation. Is there anything you want to say to me? I have some things I need to say to you. You ruined a portion of my life. I was petrified when I had kids. I was afraid they were going to be abused. There's all these different things that I went through. Was a gambit of pain and suffering. And I told him, you did this to me. And really all I wanted to hear him say before he died was that he was sorry, and for some reason I was thinking that those words were going to help heal me. And he died. He looked at me and he said, I told God I'm sorry. And I thought to myself, God was not the person that tied me up to a bed for 4 years. Exactly. I wanted to hear from him. And when he didn't say it, I went into a bad place because I thought that was bad until I found out that forgiveness was where my peace was going to be. I was not going to be released from this until I forgave him. And that took a long time to do.
Okay. So was you ever within yourself, for yourself, to forgive him?
I did. I made peace with that before I found out he had cancer. I had a birthday party for him, and I invited relatives from out of town. And that day, I decided, I got to make my peace with this, because I'm going to be Velcroed to the sin that was committed against me if I don't forgive. And so I had to. And that's a part of a lot of what I talk about in my book is forgiveness. And it's not for them. It's for you.
Yes. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll be back with Ms. Porter.
Georgia, the whole day through. Just an old simple song keeps Georgia on my mind. I said, Georgia, Georgia, a song for you. Sounds sweet and clear, like moonlight through the pines. Reach out to me. Eyes smile tenderly. Still in my mind, I see the road leads back to you. Yeah, I said, Georgia, Georgia, no peace when I find just an old simple song keeps Georgia on my mind. Hey, other arms reach out to me. Smile tenderly. Still a mind. Once I see the road leads back to you. Yeah, I said, Georgia, Georgia, no peace when I find just an old simple song keep Georgia on my mind. Just an old simple song keeps Georgia on my
Beautiful, beautiful. Make sure y'all tune in next Saturday as we will be having an important talk on the target game. Has to do with men and women when they go after other men and women as a prey. So make sure that y'all tune in. And don't y'all forget about the poetry contest. Deadline is March 16th at midnight. Get your videos over to my DM messenger on Facebook, and that way we can submit it in. But do not forget to to speak the title of your piece, and separately send me your phone number. And you will be submitted in. We will be announcing the winner on April 1st. Oh my goodness, that voice, that voice, that voice. It just that song that it's like when you hear her voice, I don't know if Denise agree with me or not, but it's like when you hear that voice, it's just like you can just feel it all in here. It's
It
like
took me back in time.
yes,
It
yes,
it reminded me of like a lounge, and you sitting in the lounge and you're on stage and you got the glitter and the lights and the smoke. That's
yes.
what that reminded me
Yes.
of.
Now, did the performances you do now, do you still use them as a place to deal in and to escape from the wounds and scars that you had suffered through? Because I know with me, people say you're a survivor, but at time I say I don't see myself as a survivor. It's just God help me to learn how to live each day as it come and to deal with it and to hold it down.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. I don't look at myself as a survivor either. I'm an overcomer. I'm an overcomer. That's what it is.
Yes.
And if you have to use the word survive, then I would certainly say thrive. I'm surviving and I'm thriving while
I
I survive.
love it. Yes, yes. Now, with this here, you have, appeared in many places. You just was somewhere recently, and these are different places that we seen that you performed at. And if you would just share with us a little bit about the last show, because you just performed, was it last week? I think it was
Yes, ma'am.
live last week.
Yeah.
So could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I mean, I know when I get behind the mic, I feel like I'm in a different place. I'm a different person. So tell us about the last event that you was in, and then how is it when you behind that mic with you?
It's I don't know, it's very interesting. It's been that way my whole life. I just had an ankle surgery where they had to reconstruct my entire ankle. And so
Mm.
I've been down since October the 12th. So last week was my first performance back. And needless to say, those 4 months that I was down, it was a rough ride during that time. So this was my comeback performance. And also, I have upcoming next month, we're doing a Donna Summer review,
Oh
and so
wow.
it's a big concert. It's going to be at a really nice huge venue, and we're expecting it to be really really nice. It's our version of Bad Girls, uh the Bad Girls review. And so we've got some really good singers that live in this city that are top artists, are going to be featured with me on this production, and it's going to be a really entertaining show. And so the Bad Girls, you might see a couple policemen running through there with blowing whistles as we play, but it ought to be a really entertaining night. That's going to be
Okay.
April the 29th in Columbus, Ohio at Natalie's Grandview venue. Very nice place.
Yes, yes. Love it, love it. Now, you are about to become a published author. And can you tell us a little bit about your book that's going to be coming up?
Broken Pieces is my story that I talked about, the damaged girl that hid behind her music, that created her own little world to survive what was going on in her life that was horrific. And through the restoration of God and the support of my mother and the prayers of people that loved me, I was able to make it back. And so for me, I mean, you don't get from one place to the other without giving back. And so my whole quest is music, presentation, the theater, the arts, period, as I try to introduce those to the young people that I make. I have still worked actively involved with youth with dance, music presentation, and theater. And so what we try to do is the Bible talks about stirring up the gifts. in young people, to see what they're good at, to see what challenges them. And so I work with young people, young women who have survived the same kind of thing, who are speaking out now because I didn't have a voice. I didn't have a voice back then. And so my thing is empowering young women. Use your voice.
Love it. Love it. So through your book, I know you wanted to use it as a tool to help other women and other children as well. But through this book here, what message are you specifically strongly trying to get across the world?
Prevention and education is the biggest thing that I'm pushing. Prevention. So if young mothers know what the signs look like, because there is a behavior that goes with young girls or boys who are sexually abused. You'll see some things. I had a lot of those difficulties. Overeating was one of them. I had an eating disorder. I was 120 pounds overweight. And when God took those shackles off of me, the weight dropped off everything. But it was a process. It didn't happen overnight. It was a struggle. The substance abuse. I did drugs. To mask my pain. But the one thing that was helpful to me, I mentioned earlier that my mom became a therapeutic foster parent, and that some of that rubbed off on me. And so she learned over 40 years of training about what those difficult behaviors look like, what it looks like when a child is abused. What kind of behavior are you going to see? Will you see some opposition? Will they be promiscuous? That, there's several different ways that behavior will come out, but it does come out. Sometimes it's displaced and you'll see it in one way. You're not sure what you're looking at, but the red flags really do speak for itself. If they're fearful to be around in a person's presence, if you see those kind of things, it means something. If you're over Uncle Harry's house and you're uncomfortable and you're seeing that she's feeling uncomfortable, that means something. A lot of times they won't come out and just say, somebody touched me. Mothers, ask questions. Don't let your children be at places unattended. Don't let them spend the night over the neighbor's house. You don't know who the parents are. There's a lot of things that go into watching over your children today. The cell phones, watching the activity on the cell phones. I was just in a training today. We're talking about how parents need to monitor the cell phones, monitor what the kids watch. They're in trouble sometime and we don't even know it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good that you say that, because I also want to say, stop making your boyfriends the babysitter.
Yes. They're
That's
not
a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a real big one.
We have had too many cases, especially here in Texas, where, we lost a child that was left with the boyfriend, and it's sad. All that child to go through, seeing the videos before she was, found dead. We got to be more protective of our children.
Yeah.
The defensive, they don't have that. Now, I appreciate you mentioning the signs, which, some of us do need to pay attention of it. Some already know the signs, especially being that you've been through it, you can identify right then and it's like, wait a minute, hold up. We have to be careful and pay more attention to our children than we do anything else, because some of our adults are too much focused on their phones instead of their children. So, these are things that we need to start refocusing on, because the way, the world is turning out today, we have to be more focused on our children, because it's just too much going on.
Too much going on.
Yeah. So,
sometimes you got to watch. Even though everybody thinks, it's not always going to be the stepfather. It's not always going to be the cousin. It's not always going to be the uncle. And sometimes it's your own biological father. It happens. I've seen it. I grew up with it. So,
And that's what my case was, too, which made it even harder to deal with, because, and not that it was any easier if you're abused by a stranger, but when it's somebody that's supposed to love you and take care of you and protect you, and that protection is taken away from you, I tell you, it's 1,000 times worse.
Yeah, because when you look at your parents, You know, it's like you look
That's your
at them to
stronghold.
protect you. They supposed to protect you. You look for them for
That's a
love
shelter right there.
and guidance. You know, you don't look for them to harm you.
Right.
Mm-mm.
You look
Yeah,
for them to protect you from
it's
that harm.
sickening. It's sickening.
Mhm.
It's sickening. I mean, you know, it's when I was that little bitty little girl and I saw my sister being abused. I didn't understand it at the time, but as I started growing, that memory kept coming back, kept coming back, kept coming back. And I like, oh my gosh, she was being abused. She was being abused. And then he trying to groom us. He done already molested my brother. It was a whole bunch of mess. It was just, he was just trying to groom us. And the stuff that you were saying came back as a flashback on the grooming technique, saying that if you tell your mom, it could kill her if you tell her. This is a little 8-year old little girl, such as myself, being told this. If you tell your mother anything that's going on, you know, it's gonna kill her. So I kept my mouth shut because I said if I tell her, she might have a heart attack and die. That's what all was going in my head. She's gonna die if I tell her. And
Yeah.
that was just a horrible thing.
Now, through this here, I know like through our own scars, you know, I started my own
Mm-hmm.
business in assisting victims of abuse, domestic violence, you know, and you know, going out motivational speaking. But you have taken things to another level as well
Yeah.
and within the community in order to help others that's been through this. Can you tell us a little bit about this organization that you're a part of?
I have a nonprofit that I started right in the heart of COVID. It's called SOARS, Survivors Overcoming Abuse Recovery Services. And what we try to do is wrap around those women who have been abused. And I tell you, we would have sessions and you would see women in the floor, literally crying, crawling around, trying to get that pain out. Some of them would stand outside on the porch and not even able to handle being in the same room where that kind of dialogue was going on because it gave them a flashback. It took them back to that hurtful
Mm-hmm.
place. And so we had to meet them where they are. I mean, sometimes we would be in the floor and just pray with them until they got a breakthrough because that kind of pain, and when you've had it in you for so many years as a child,
Mm-hmm.
there is a pain in you that just words don't take it away. It's just deep down inside. And it's only the peace of God that surpasses all understanding that can take you to that place so that you can rise above that storm and try to fight for your life and get your life back.
That's so true. There's a lot of truth behind that. I
Yes.
tell you that talking, getting in the group talking and speaking about it, you release that. I call it what I call it. We call it a demon. You release that demon, get rid of it because you don't. So it won't have any more control over your life. I
Yeah.
had a God by the grace of God. I had all my sisters, and we talked it through, and we spoke about it. And every now and then, we still talk about it. Just it's good to get that out. It's not good to hold that information on yourself because it will destroy you in the end.
Mhm.
It'll make your life difficult.
Yeah, and I found that, you know, that's true, Denise, because I even found that within myself, you
Mm-hmm.
know, when I was living in fear and I started to have up these walls, what I called. And when I got out there, I was more or less pushed to go motivational speaking. I'm like telling my story. I didn't never want to do that. But when I got behind that mic and it got to sharing my story and speaking on it, and then getting out there and seeing that other people that came towards me to say, okay, you did it. I want to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That is like each step that I did was also helping me to heal, to get stronger.
Yep.
You
You
know,
imagine how many mustard seeds you done planted?
oh,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
I'll be I'll be
yes.
honest. When I started writing the book, initially, Lord had told me to write this book, and I always thought I was going to write a book, but I had never been able to pull the strength together to do it. Every time I would pick up the pen and I would write, or I would get on the laptop, when I would get to that painful part that happened to me, you know, I would just put it down. I curl up in a ball and just like, I don't know if I could do this. But as I started getting through the book, I felt more and more empowered. That I was just taking off an old suit, you know, taking off some old clothes. Because when you're sexually abused, sometimes you feel like you can't get clean. I remember just taking showers until I just wanted to rub the skin off of me because I didn't feel clean after that had happened to me. You know, this was a cleansing time. And it's been a healing time for me, even though there was a rough ride getting through the book and reliving all the things that happened to me. You know, it was a lot, you know.
Yes. And I mean, this here is just, you know, it's hard to live with because I tell people, you know, you don't know what a person's been through, especially when some get into relationships. You really, you know, if you know and you can't deal or you don't have the respect to treat them right, don't enter that field. But if you're willing to love that person with their scars and their wounds, be able to handle that pain because it takes a long process to actually deal with that. Because I even found myself, just like you said, I had to put my book down, you know, because I got to like, you know, feeling that pain again. It was just like reliving history.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and I mean, I just told my daughter, you know, we got 2 books published already. We're working on a children's book. We're getting ready for that memoir, which to finish it off. And the generational chain of abuse is just reliving that history. I found those painful spots and I did exactly what you did. I said, okay, Lord, I need to put this down for a minute because I was just crying. It was just hurting because it's just like you reliving that history again, you know, but hearing what you're saying, take it as a piece of clothing, that old clothing that you're pulling off. And I'm going to remember that when I pick that book back up.
I like that analogy.
Yes. Yes. I love the way she put that. Now, if you had any words of nutrition to share with anybody that's watching today, because we're all over the world, even in Africa, and abuse is all over in every color, any time of the day. If you have any nutritional words that you could share right now, would you please share that?
I would say to all the mothers and the parents to please listen to your children. Talk to your children. And I know a lot of kids are saying, well, stay out of my room. And there is no privacy when it comes to your kids. You need to investigate. You need to look. Please, parents, be nosy. Be intuitive. See what's going on in your kid's cell phone. Look in their room. Look in their drawers because you're trying to make them safe. They didn't come up in the same kind of world that we do. There are other things that we didn't have to think about coming up, but that these kids are dealing with every single day. I mean, and the numbers are astronomical. The fentanyl numbers are going up and up and up, and it's taking our young people out. So for a parent, watch what your kids do. If you see a difference in behavior, it means something. If you see their attitude is different, they're isolated, that's coming from a place of somewhere, and it's your job to find out.
Yes.
Thank you. And this has been such a pleasure. I really appreciate you, coming on and sharing your story. I'll be watching you and following you. And if you could supply, if somebody want to follow you or to check up on your events to know where they could, see you appear, how could they follow you in this way? Could you provide that?
I have a YouTube page that says that is TNM Project. T, capital T, the and sign M Project. You'll find me on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and that has where I'm performing at, upcoming performances, past performances, and then YouTube, it just has different performances of me singing. So.
Love it. And Tanise, do you have any last words for our beautiful guest?
I don't even know what to say anymore because she done said us. Oh, I look like my mama.
I've been saying that all night.
No, I am so blessed to see you. I'll be honest with you. I've seen you before.
Really?
Yes, I have. I've seen you before, and it was some years ago. Not in person. I saw you on TV, like PBS or something like that, dealing with Johnny Cash. Though that's why I was so intrigued with that part of the segment.
Yeah.
So I'm familiar with you. But I'm so blessed to see you here. I'm so blessed to see you alive. So blessed to see you thriving. And I'm so blessed that you're able, instead of saying surviving, overcoming your trauma.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And I hope to see you again. And like I said, this has been a pleasure. Continue to stand your ground. I'm proud of you standing your ground and breaking the chains in your life. But also making a difference in other life in order to help them get through as well. We are very proud of you, and we thank you for everything that you have done within the community.
The book will be out in June, Broken Pieces.
Yes. And if y'all looking for it, make sure, where can they find the book once it drops?
It's going to be on all the domains, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and all those, they'll be on all the
platforms. You have it everywhere.
Yeah, inside in the United States and outside as well.
Awesome.
Keep me informed because I'm supporting. I want that book.
Thank you.
And I want it signed.
Yes, ma'am.
I want one too.
Make sure. No problem. That's a done deal.
Well, I truly thank everyone over there on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube for tuning in to our story and listening in. Also to the ones that commented. I want to leave us today with our Inspirational Poet of the Year that was awarded by the Unspoken Heart Discussion Hour, Miss Nikita McClure.
I am her, the her that is the mother, the her that saves all mankind when the trials and tribulations of life occur. I am her, bringing the treasures of Africa from the motherland, the her that holds up the man when the tragedies of life buckles his stand. I am her, carrying my babies in my arms, shielding them from fire with the ringing of the alarm. I am her that walked with no fear during the Katrina storm, to save my babies from drowning in the midst of the storm. I am her that walked in the fields of white cotton, the her that sang hymnals for the souls of the forgotten. I am her that chose to escape the Holocaust, fleeing to the forest of eastern Poland, fighting for the memory of the other Jewish women lost. I am her that gave birth at the age of 16, the her that they said wouldn't amount to anything.
When you're looking at me, it's a reflection of her. How can you judge when you don't know her? No one could take the place of her. I am her. I am her.
The her that walked the stage holding me, the her that moved on to earn a Texas Southern degree, the her that didn't eat so that my brother and I could, the her that was raped and left in a trash bag of a nearby neighborhood. My mother, who chose to pray away pain to recover. My beautiful black hero that embraces me when I feel hurt and lonely. I am her that lives in a house of no defeat. The her that isn't afraid to speak. The her that will encourage when she doesn't have courage. To keep on fighting with her feminine power. The her that prays silently in the last hour. I am her.
When you're looking at me, it's a reflection of her. How can you judge when you don't know her? And no one could take the place of her.
Survivor. The her that they said would die in the night. The her that walked on when the doctors doubted she might. I am her.